planet's second biggest emitter, embracing the winds of change. A landmark piece of legislation initiated an American revolution in the energy market. The Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, opens up billions in funding opportunities to advance alternatives to fossil fuels. But there's one crucial thing missing: transmission lines to carry the energy from wind and solar across different states. The US has barely built any major ones since the turn of the millennium. Those that do exist are old and don't feed into the locations most needed to power America's green future. Unless they're built at a much faster pace, roughly 80% of the emissions reductions expected from the IRA might not materialize.
I think the problem that we're having right now is that transmission is a little bit of a political hot potato. As you can imagine, some folks may see transmission as a need just to move renewables, and I think it's important for us to all say that transmission is not a renewable need. It is a national need. As people, we are relying more and more on electricity for whatever it may be, from charging your phone to an EV revolution on our vehicle side.
Progress generally has been made. Renewables today account for more than a fifth of the US's electricity, a significant increase from even a decade ago. And consumer demand for the technology is rocketing. Take cars. 7% of all new registrations are for electric vehicles. However, experts say the charging infrastructure nationwide, or lack thereof, is what's driving away prospective owners.
The coasts are fairly well built out. When you start to get into the vast swaths of land that we have, across the Midwest and further west, right, that it becomes very difficult.
To get there, transmission networks will have to expand, but it's expensive and it's hard to get permission from different levels of government. Transforming grid capacity across such a huge landmass, well, that doesn't happen overnight either. Yet the administration insists its actions and subsidies are still having a rapid impact.
The energy transition is happening much faster than people predicted. That's good news. It's happening because the cost of renewables is coming down. It's happening because innovation is proceeding apace.
Time is of the essence, though. This isn't just about a long-term structural overhaul. President Biden needs his policies and their tangible results to land fast with voters in order for him to stay in office and continue with his climate agenda.
India is the world's third largest emitter after the US, with an economy that's heavily reliant on coal, but it's trying to clean up its act. Indian power company JSW Energy is building its first green hydrogen plant. It will generate a cleaner form of hydrogen used in steel production for its sister company, one of the country's largest steel makers. JSW says that the plant is expected to be up and running in 16 months, with a capacity of about 4,000 tonnes. It will be the largest commercial green hydrogen project in India. And, like the government, JSW believes India has a future in the green gas.
India is rightly in a very sweet spot to emerge as one of the biggest players in the green hydrogen market globally in times to come. And I think that, all the policy tailwinds that the government has come out with in consultation with industries is moving in the right direction. And this can potentially become a very, very big opportunity.
Green hydrogen is produced when electricity generated from renewable sources is used to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. It's still nascent as a fuel. But under India's green hydrogen mission, the government has announced plans to produce at least 5 million tonnes a year of the gas by 2030. And it has earmarked an initial budget of more than $2.5 billion for financial incentives, research and development and infrastructure.
India imports a large part of its overall energy needs, and producing green hydrogen indigenously will improve its energy security. Second, it will help combat climate change and help meet its global commitments.
Bringing down emissions is critical for India, which has some of the world's most polluted cities. By the government's estimates, the use of green hydrogen by 2030 could slash annual carbon dioxide emissions by 50 million metric tonnes. It could also save India more than $12 billion in imports of fossil fuels. Green hydrogen can be used in transport, particularly for trucks and shipping, and also support industry, from steel making to producing fertilizers, key sectors in the Indian economy. Some of India's biggest energy companies like Reliance Industries and Adani are working on green hydrogen solutions in a big way.
India's green hydrogen plan is part of its aim to become energy independent by 2047 and to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2070. But beyond producing hydrogen for its own needs, India also wants to become a leading supplier of the fuel to other countries.
But green hydrogen has its fair share of challenges. As the gas with the lowest density, it isn't easy to move it from one place to another safely. And industry insiders say it's also quite expensive at the moment. Still, analysts expect costs to come down over the next few years. And companies like JSW Energy see green hydrogen as an important fuel of the future. It's already making plans to build a second plant, which will be 20 times bigger than the first. Just as India banks on getting a head start to become the global hub for the production of green hydrogen.
After putting on our safety gear, we headed out to sea. This boat runs an electric motor, which means it does not emit carbon dioxide.
It's certainly nice and quiet, but electrifying motorboats is not easy. It takes 10 times more energy than electrifying vehicles that run on land.
Part of the reason is because a big battery is needed, and it could take up too much space, especially on small boats. There's another obstacle. Electrified boats cannot sail fast yet. But still, Yamaha Motor, which made the motor, is placing great emphasis on this electrifying initiative.
電動船外機っていうのが、世界の中では出始めてます。で、特にヨーロッパ中心としてやっぱりヨーロッパ環境大国ですので、我々そこにも追いつきたいという部分もありますので。
Europe and the US are the world's largest marine markets, while the Japanese market for boats is very small. But Japanese manufacturers currently have a big global market share in the sales of outboard motors and engines.
日本のエンジン性能っていうの、エンジンの製作について、自動車とか二輪車、そういう実績の持った技術があった上で船外機を電動化するということに取り組んでおられる企業がヤマハ、ホンダなどですね。でその他環境への配慮ということで、例えばスズキさんのではマイクロプラスチックを船外機で回収すると。
The global marine industry has seen stronger sales since COVID-19 pandemic, and Japanese exporters with their carbon neutral options want to ride on the bandwagon. Aside from electrification, experiments with other sources of energy are also taking place.
水素エンジン、それから、e フューエル合成燃料だったり、あとハイブリッドとかですね、そのところは弊社の、AM、オートモービル自動車系の事業をやってるところもありますので、そこはトヨタさんと一緒に組んでやったりしてるっていうところもありますので。
Gasoline remains the most practical way of generating power for boats currently, according to the Japan Marine Industry Association. But in order to remain competitive in the international market, especially in Europe, just like the automakers, going carbon neutral is essential to remain a key player in the marine industry.
As a new day breaks across Berlin, it's all hands on deck as crews unload the day's deliveries. Powered by the sun, the solar delivery boats take advantage of a network of canals that snake through the city. Swapping roads for rivers means less congestion, noise and air pollution.
This project is saving emissions every day. The solar boat itself runs net zero emissions, has delivered 50,000 or more than 50,000 parcels. It would have been more than 300 van tours that we have saved the emissions, and a couple of vans.
Freight transportation accounts for around 8% of global carbon emissions. And with the e-commerce sector showing little sign of slowing down, delivery companies are looking for new solutions to help cut their carbon footprint. Berlin-based OnOmotion says it's ready to help. Their unique e-bikes provide a pedal-powered alternative for traditional diesel delivery vans.
It is much more flexible. So you, on the one side, can use the street, but you can also use the bicycle infrastructure. Then you can park directly in front of the delivery address. You don't have to find a parking lot somewhere and then walk to the delivery address. And at the end, you use less CO2 emission, and you're causing also less traffic jam because you're not parking on the road and blocking the traffic. So these all makes the solution much more flexible and better for our environment.
The company says that because of the way the bikes have been designed, it's also easy to recruit workers without the need for extensive training.
Well, it is incredibly simple to drive. The batteries give it a good kick of acceleration, which helps with the hills. And because it's got 3 wheels, well, it stays firmly balanced on the road. And because it's technically a bicycle, well, it doesn't require any special license.
It's also not a car.
And for every journey made, the company says carbon savings quickly add up.
You save every time nearly a kilo or more of CO2 emission. That's the direct savings you have, and then indirect, because you're not causing traffic jams. If you have a van blocking the street and you have a big traffic jam because of that, then you also have a lot of CO2 emissions because of that. And we already got inquiries from Japan, from Singapore, from Malaysia.
Whether it's waterways or bike lanes, the industry says that collaboration with local governments is critical to helping hit climate goals by providing the infrastructure to transition away from road traffic-based deliveries, helping in turn to reduce congestion and carbon emissions.
These forest rangers are on the front line of Vietnam's efforts to protect its white elephants. Here they are using camera traps for the first time to monitor and collect data about the population in Cat Tien National Park in southern Dong Nai. The data will allow researchers to come up with strategies to conserve the herd. Nguyen Thị Mai is a lead researcher in the project, and this is what she found. They have recorded and profiled 27 Asian elephants over the past 1.5 years. That's nearly double the previous population estimates here. But Mrs. Mai is realistic about the prospects for the critically endangered animal.
Đáng tiếc nhìn thấy 16.000 bức ảnh qua bẫy ảnh, qua những cái tài liệu video bằng cái chương trình bẫy ảnh của mình chưa bao giờ nhìn thấy chưa bao giờ nhìn thấy voi ngoài tự nhiên.
I joined a group of researchers going deep into this forest to follow the trail of the white elephants. But this was closest we got. Fresh dung left behind can offer valuable insight into the elephants' diet and behavior, and also the dangers they face. Humans are the biggest threat to Vietnam's white elephants. The clearing of land destroys their habitats, leading to encounters like this. Hungry elephants also raid and destroy farms. This man was attacked when he was trying to protect his crops and his 2 cows.
Khoảng chừng 10 đến 15 phút á là mới lùa qua một cái, tính lùa qua khỏi con bò, quay lại xong mà dứt tôi luôn, dí tôi một đoạn rồi xong rồi tôi té xuống, dứt tôi xong rồi dậm tôi mà nhờ tôi đu kịp cái ngà đó, rồi tôi mới sống được tới giờ này.
This incident put Vietnam's last elephants at risk of revenge attacks. In the past, some farmers, fearing for their livelihoods, took matters into their own hands.
Chính xác là khi mà phá hoại á, thì người ta sẽ đổ thuốc, trộn vào xoài chẳng hạn, để vào đấy. Thế ăn cái là chết.
This stopped when rangers built 75 kilometers of electric fence inside Cat Tien National Park to keep elephants and humans apart.
Đặc biệt là có một số trường hợp gây chết người và thậm chí là voi đã bị chết. Có lần nhiều nhất là đến 9 cá thể trong một năm. Đó, thì sau khi hàng đào điện đưa vào hoạt động á, thì cái tình trạng mà voi rừng mà chết mà do nguyên nhân là xung đột á, thì gần như là được chấm dứt.
But measures like this could also create new problems.
Most methods of protecting crops, including traditional crop guarding, chasing elephants, elephant response teams, all these are based on aggression towards elephants. It will make the elephants more and more aggressive towards people. So as a result, conflict increases. So you kind of get into an arms race with elephants.
Observers say Vietnam's approach to solving the conflict needs to change to take into account the needs and welfare of the elephants. While conservation efforts have seen limited results so far, the findings of the researchers in Đồng Nai will help shape a new national action plan for Vietnam's wild elephants over the next decade.
Australia has lost more mammal species than any other continent over the past 2 centuries. Most days will find University of Tasmania researchers driving into the forest in search of an animal that was once threatened with extinction. Elise Ringwalt from the School of Biology and Science is checking traps designed to capture Tasmanian devils, the stocky marsupial which disappeared from mainland Australia around 3,500 years ago. It can be a difficult job transferring them into a sack where they're scanned, cleaned and checked for any sign of the facial tumour that has decimated the population over more than 20 years. After a detailed examination, this little devil is given the all clear and escapes back into its forest habitat. But the unlucky ones will often die from the disease.
And so what happens is that the tumour expands and grows bigger, but it also metastasizes. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that could cause things like secondary infections. It can cause necrosis, and it gets really, really nasty. But sometimes that also means that it gets so big that it can break bones, so their jaw can break, and that's when, unfortunately, they're unable to feed anymore, and then they pass away.
Over the years, the facial tumour is believed to have claimed the lives of 80% of the devil population. There are hopes that the disease can be successfully treated by injecting live cancer cells into affected animals to stimulate their immune system. Recent research has also found that genetic changes in the tumour have allowed the disease to coexist with Tassie devils, thereby reducing their long-term decline. The Tasmanian devil is one of Australia's most iconic creatures, and here in Tasmania, it's one of the top tourist attractions.
So Atlas here, he would become what we call a back rider. These back riders, they'd hang out on mum's back, go for a little cruise around. You're mostly left inside a den though.
This sanctuary in the Cradle Mountain area of Tasmania plays a dual role by both entertaining visitors and by ensuring there will always be a place where devils can live tumour-free.
Because of the work that we do as part of the insurance population, we don't work with any disease devils in here. This is a kind of a quarantine facility, biosecure facility with the whole a goal being ultimately to make sure we only have disease-free animals and that we maintain that. So the disease spreads through physical contact. So as long as these guys are not having contact with wild devils, they won't be infected with the disease.
Behaving yourself? What a little superstar. Look at everybody here to see you, Atlas.
That not only guarantees the long-term survival of the species, but also provides one of Tasmania's most endearing tourism spectacles.
Animals together, so we would never put Atlas in with the big ones. Way too dangerous. Imagine if he gets a bite, it's going to be pretty fatal. So for their own protection, we have the same sort of age cohorts, we call it.
The removal of diseased animals from the wild is already having a positive effect on numbers, thereby ensuring devils will continue to be around for future generations to study and enjoy.